The sky above New Eden fractured into crystalline patterns as the first alien ships breached the atmosphere. Dr. Elena Rice looked up from her research terminal, momentarily transfixed by the prismatic reflections dancing across the colony's central dome. Beautiful, she thought, before the alarms began to wail. Unidentified vessels entering colonial airspace announced the automated defense system. All citizens proceed to emergency shelters immediately. Elena's laboratory colleagues abandoned their stations, rushing toward the reinforced sublevel. She hesitated, transferring critical research data to a portable drive. 5 years studying the unique biological markers of New Eden's ecosystem. She couldn't leave it behind. "Elena, now," shouted Dr. Nakamura from the doorway. "They're not responding to hails." Through the transparent ceiling panels, she watched more ships descend, elegant, faceted structures that refracted sunlight into rainbows. Their beauty belied their purpose. The first energy blast struck the colony's communication array, shattering it into molten fragments. "We need to warn Earth," Elena said, pocketing the drive and running toward the emergency comm station instead of the shelter. The colony's defense grid activated, modest protection designed for meteorites and the occasional pirate vessel, not an armada of unknown origin. Energy shields flickered against the onslaught before failing spectacularly, like soap bubbles bursting under pressure. Elena reached the comm station as the building shook. The duty officer lay slumped over the console, blood trickling from his ears. She pushed him aside, fingers flying across the interface. "This is New Eden Colony, issuing emergency distress under Protocol 7. We are under attack by unknown forces. Repeat, unknown forces have bypassed orbital defenses in air." The ceiling collapsed as a crystalline vessel hovered directly overhead. Elena activated the emergency beacon and aimed the station's camera upward, broadcasting live as a beam of coherent light sliced through the building. Her last conscious thought was to hold the camera steady, to show Earth what was happening. Admiral William Chen watched the fragmented transmission for the third time, his face betraying no emotion. 10 million colonists, scientists, engineers, families, gone in less than 6 hours. "Play it again," he ordered the communications officer aboard the UES Vigilant. The distress signal repeated. Screaming civilians, crystalline ships, flashes of devastating weapons fire. And finally, the image of Dr. Elena Rice holding a camera steady as death approached. Her final gift to humanity. Evidence. The reconnaissance fleet had arrived 28 hours after the distress signal reached Earth. Too late for rescue, but in time to witness the aftermath. New Eden, once humanity's proudest deep space achievement, reduced to cooling slag and scattered debris. "Sensor sweep complete, Admiral," reported his science officer. "Residual energy signatures indicate the hostiles departed toward the galactic core approximately 18 hours ago. Biomarker scans show no survivors." Chen nodded once, sharply. "Prepare a comprehensive report for Earth Command. Include all sensor data, atmospheric samples, and debris analysis. I want trajectory calculations on those energy signatures, where they came from, where they went." He turned to face the viewport, gazing at the devastation below. New Eden had been built on a habitable moon orbiting a gas giant, a jewel of human ingenuity and perseverance. From orbit, he could see the concentric rings of agricultural zones now reduced to ash. The central research dome collapsed, residential sectors flattened. "Sir," his communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving a direct transmission from Earth Command. President Alvarez is requesting to address the fleet." Chen straightened his uniform. "Put her through to all ships." The view screen illuminated with the stern face of Earth's president. Her eyes were rimmed red, but her voice remained steady. "Admiral Chen, we've received your preliminary reports. The full United Earth Senate has convened an emergency session. What happened at New Eden will not stand unanswered. You are hereby ordered to complete your investigation and return to Earth immediately. The response to this atrocity will require every ship, every resource, and every citizen of human space. Chen saluted. "Understood, Madam President." After the transmission ended, he remained at the viewport, watching as survey shuttles cataloged the destruction below. The Admiral had served in 3 border conflicts during his career. He had witnessed the aftermath of pirate raids, rogue AI attacks, and industrial disasters. But this was different. This was extermination, calculated and thorough. As his fleet prepared to depart, Chen issued a final order: place a warning beacon in orbit. New Eden is now a memorial site. And record this in the ship's log. Today marks the beginning of humanity's first true interstellar war. Across human space, the news spread like wildfire. On 127 worlds, the fractious arguments of politics and economics fell silent. Humanity, divided for so long by petty disputes, found sudden unity in grief and rage. The human response was coming, and it would be magnificent. Admiral Helena Choi stood before the United Earth Senate, her dress uniform immaculate, despite the 36 sleepless hours since her arrival from the Centauri Defense Fleet. The chamber, normally filled with the buzz of political maneuvering, was silent as a tomb. Representatives from all 127 human-settled worlds watched from their designated sectors: Mars delegates in rust-red attire, the gas-mining colonies of Jupiter in practical pressure suit adaptations, and the far-flung outer colonies in their distinct cultural garb. "The footage you've just witnessed," Helena said, her augmented voice carrying to every corner of the chamber, "represents the final moments of New Eden. But it does not show the aftermath that our reconnaissance fleet documented." She gestured, and new holographic projections materialized in the center of the chamber, ruins still smoking days after the attack, bodies of colonists frozen in their final moments of terror, shattered infrastructure that represented decades of human achievement. "We have faced aggression before. We have endured disasters. But this," she paused, letting the images speak, "this was extermination." Senator Kazuo from the Proxima colony stood, his voice shaking. "New Eden was under my jurisdiction. 10 million lives, scientists, children, my own niece among them. What do you propose, Admiral?" Helena nodded to her aide, who distributed secure tablets to the Senate leadership. "Before you is the classified sword of Damocles Protocol, created 50 years ago during the AI rebellion, but never implemented. It calls for the complete mobilization of humanity's industrial and military capacity toward a single objective." Murmurs spread through the chamber as senators reviewed the document. The economic implications alone were staggering. "You're proposing to redirect every shipyard, every manufacturing center across human space," said the Europan delegate, her eyes widening. "The cost. The cost of inaction is extinction," Helena interrupted. "We don't know who these crystalline entities are. We don't know if New Eden was their only target. But we know their capabilities and their willingness to annihilate human settlements without provocation." President Alvarez rose from her seat at the center of the chamber. "Admiral Choi has my complete confidence. The executive branch endorses the Sword of Damocles Protocol, but this decision requires the unanimous consent of this body." Helena watched as the delegates conferred. She had spent her career patrolling the borders of human space, commanding defensive operations against pirates and rogue factions. She had never imagined standing here, advocating for the largest military buildup in human history. "The vote will now commence," announced the Senate Speaker. "Representatives will indicate their position." One by one, the holographic display tallied the votes. Green indicators spread across the chamber map like a wave. Unanimous. "Admiral Choi," President Alvarez said formally, "by the authority vested in this unified government, you are hereby appointed Supreme Commander of what will be designated the Vengeance Armada. All resources of human civilization are at your disposal." Helena's eyes remained steady as she accepted the neural command key, a small transparent chip that would link her to every aspect of the coming war machine. "I accept this responsibility," she said, inserting the key into the neural port at her temple. Information flooded her consciousness: shipyard capabilities, resource inventories, personnel files. As the Senate chamber erupted in solemn applause, Helena's mind was already calculating, planning, preparing. Humanity had been a fractious, squabbling species that explored the stars out of curiosity and commercial interest. That ended today. Now, they would become something else entirely. The asteroid belt of Ta Ceti transformed under humanity's relentless industry. Where once barren rocks tumbled in silent orbit, now massive extraction platforms carved them apart with precision lasers. Commander Raj Patil observed the operation from the command deck of the manufacturing station, _Vulcan's hammer _ Production quotas are up 17% from last week, reported his executive officer, scrolling through holographic data. The automated refineries are operating at 112% of rated capacity. Raj nodded. And the failure rate? Below 3%. The new neural networked repair drones are keeping pace. 18 months had passed since the Senate invoked the Sword of Damocles protocol. 18 months of unprecedented industrial transformation. Similar scenes played out across 27 star systems as humanity's manufacturing capacity expanded beyond what anyone had thought possible. In the Jupiter shipyards, massive skeletal frameworks grew into dreadnoughts capable of reducing planets to slag. Around Venus, swarms of automated factories produced smaller attack craft by the thousands. Deep beneath Europa's ice, quantum physicists worked alongside weapons engineers to reverse engineer the alien weapon signatures recorded during the New Eden attack. Admiral Choi's neural implant allowed her to monitor it all simultaneously, a constant stream of production data, research breakthroughs, resource allocations. She stood now in a holographic chamber aboard her flagship, _Righteous Fury _, reviewing the latest intelligence. The aliens have been identified as the crystalline hierarchy, reported Dr. Singh through the neural link. Analysis of residual energy patterns from New Eden indicates they've been harvesting civilizations for millennia. They strike once, completely, then retreat to process what they've taken. A critical error, Choi responded. They gave us time to prepare. She expanded the holographic display, showing the current fleet production numbers. 247,892 vessels completed, 452,108 in various stages of construction. The original goal had been 500,000 ships, but production efficiencies had allowed them to aim higher. The aliens, this crystalline hierarchy, had no concept of what they had awakened. At the Cirrus Research Facility, Dr. Amara Singh directed a team working to understand crystalline technology recovered from New Eden's ruins. Initial breakthroughs had already transformed human weapon systems. Directed energy weapons now incorporated phase-shifting technology that could penetrate the aliens' regenerative hulls. They'd never faced a counterattack, Singh told her colleagues as they examined the alien fragments. Their historical pattern shows them harvesting isolated colonies, then moving on before central governments can respond. They've never met humans, replied her assistant, Dr. Chen. In orbital shipyards above Mars, the first wave of completed vessels ran combat simulations. Captain Lena Rodriguez watched her crew adapt to the new neural-linked combat systems that would allow hundreds of thousands of ships to coordinate with unprecedented precision. All weapons hot, shields at maximum, she reported during the final drill. Combat readiness certified. Similar reports flooded in from shipyards throughout human space. The vast industrial machine created by the Sword of Damocles protocol had achieved what many had thought impossible. 700,000 warships, from agile fighters to city-sized dreadnoughts, readied for combat in 18 months. At Earth Command, Admiral Choi received the final production report and allowed herself a rare smile. The crystalline hierarchy had struck humanity once and departed, assuming they were like all the other species they had harvested over millennia. They hadn't stayed to witness humanity's transformation from a peaceful civilization into something else entirely, a vengeful juggernaut with the industrial might to blacken the stars. Dr. Amara Singh's hands trembled as she studied the crystalline fragment under the quantum microscope. 3 days without sleep had left dark circles under her eyes, but she couldn't stop, not when they were so close to a breakthrough. "Look at this structure," she said to her colleague, Dr. Jackson Chen. "It's not just a weapon or a hull fragment. It's alive." The crystalline material pulsed with faint bioluminescence, shifting patterns racing through its translucent structure like thoughts through a neural network. The fragment had been recovered from the ruins of New Eden's Central Science Facility, one of the few pieces intact enough to study. "The patterns are becoming more coherent," Chen observed, adjusting the scanner. "It's almost as if it's learning from us even as we study it," Singh finished. "That's exactly what I think is happening." The laboratory aboard the research vessel _Prometheus hummed with activity as the science team worked to understand their enemy. While the industrial machine of humanity built warships by the thousands, the true advantage would come from knowledge. Singh activated the neural isolation field around the specimen and accessed the quantum computer's analysis. "These aren't just ships," she said suddenly, her voice tight with realization. "The entire crystalline hierarchy is a hive mind species. The vessels, the weapons, they're all extensions of a single consciousness." She projected her findings to the main display, showing how the crystalline patterns matched neural structures found in biological brains, but vastly more complex. When they attacked New Eden, they weren't just destroying. They were consuming, absorbing the neural patterns of every human they killed. Our knowledge, our experiences, our emotions, all of it harvested and integrated into their collective. Admiral Choi, watching the presentation remotely through her neural link, spoke through the lab's communication system. "Is this confirmed?" "Beyond reasonable doubt," Singh replied. "We've cross-referenced the patterns with known telepathic species and quantum consciousness models. The hierarchy has been doing this for millennia, methodically moving through the galaxy and adding the neural patterns of victim species to their collective intelligence." "And the strategic implications?" Choi asked. Singh and Chen exchanged glances before Chen responded. "Their collective consciousness makes them formidable. They coordinate perfectly and learn rapidly. But it's also potentially their greatest vulnerability." He manipulated the holographic model, highlighting a theoretical structure. "Our models suggest the existence of a central nexus, a physical location where the core consciousness resides. Destroy that, and the entire species could be crippled." Singh added, "They've consumed thousands of species, but never humans before. Our neural architecture, our emotional responses, they're different. The hierarchy couldn't fully integrate the human patterns they absorbed from New Eden. It's causing disruptions in their collective." "Can we locate this nexus?" Choi asked. "We've analyzed the energy signatures from their retreat," Singh said. "They're heading toward the galactic core. That's where we'll find their homeworld and their central consciousness." As the meeting concluded, Singh remained in the lab, studying the pulsing crystal. The fragment seemed to watch her in return, its patterns shifting in response to her presence. "They think they've consumed us," she whispered to the alien artifact. "They don't understand that humans don't go quietly into oblivion. We fight back. And now we know exactly where to strike." Earth glowed blue and serene below, seemingly untouched by the industrial fever that had consumed humanity for the past 2 years. But in orbit, the evidence of that transformation was unmistakable. 700,000 warships arranged in concentric rings around the planet, forming an artificial constellation visible from the surface as a metallic halo. On the observation deck of her flagship, the _Righteous Fury _ Admiral Helena Choi gazed at the armada she commanded, the largest military force ever assembled in the history of any known species. "Final fleet status report," she requested. Her executive officer, Commander Santiago, consulted his neural interface. "All vessels report ready, Admiral. Final munitions and provisions loading completed 6 hours ago. Crew complement stands at 98.7% of optimal. The neural command network is operating at full capacity. Choi nodded, her face betraying none of the weight she carried. 2 billion personnel spread across the fleet, every ship captained by humanity's finest, every weapons system incorporating technology reverse-engineered from the crystalline fragments. 2 years of single-minded purpose distilled into this moment. "Open a channel to Earth Command and all fleet vessels," she ordered. The communications officer complied, and a soft tone indicated the connection was live. Billions would be watching. Every human on Earth, and across the settled worlds, united in this moment as they had never been before. "This is Admiral Helena Choi, Supreme Commander of the Vengeance Armada," she began, her voice calm and measured. "In 6 hours, we depart for the Galactic core to confront those who destroyed New Eden. We do not seek this war. We did not fire the first shot." She paused, her eyes sweeping across the endless formation of ships visible through the viewport. "But we shall most certainly fire the last." From the presidential palace in Geneva, Earth's unified government watched the transmission. President Alvarez stood at attention, surrounded by the Senate leadership. "The greatest undertaking in human history," whispered the Martian representative. "The fulfillment of the Sword of Damocles," replied Alvarez. "May it strike true." Aboard the _Righteous Fury _ Choi concluded her address and turned to her bridge crew. "Initiate departure sequence. First wave will jump in 30 minutes, followed by sequential waves at 2-minute intervals." The Vengeance Armada began to move with choreographed precision. The first 100,000 ships aligned their formation, engaged their FTL drives, and vanished in synchronized flashes of light. The largest coordinated jump in human history. Space itself seemed to shudder at the display of technological might. 3 days into their journey toward the Galactic core, the fleet encountered their first alien vessel, not of crystalline origin, but a refugee ship from a species calling themselves the Nanari. Their translucent bodies pulsed with bioluminescence as they communicated with the human delegation. "The crystal devourers destroyed our homeworld 5 cycles ago," their elder explained through the translation matrix. "We are among the few who escaped." "How many other species have they consumed?" Choi asked. "Thousands, over millennia. None fight back. All flee or perish." The Nanari vessel's sensors detected the true size of the human fleet approaching in waves, and the elder's bioluminescence flickered in astonishment. "You pursue them, with such numbers." "They took one of our worlds," Choi replied simply. "We're going to their home to ensure they never take another." As the Nanari vessel departed, it transmitted the news to other refugee species. Word spread ahead of the human armada. A species unlike any other was coming, one that didn't flee from the crystalline hierarchy, but hunted them instead. Captain Lena Rodriguez's battle group detected the crystalline outpost 3 days after entering the outer boundary of what intelligence had designated hierarchy space. 16 human vessels against a defensive station bristling with the same weapons that had reduced New Eden to ash. "All ships, battle formation Delta," she ordered through the neural command network. "Weapons hot, shields at maximum." The outpost registered the human presence almost immediately. Crystalline vessels emerged from docking bays, elegant, faceted ships that shimmered with internal light. Beautiful and deadly. "They're scanning us," reported her tactical officer. "Energy signatures indicate weapon systems powering up." Rodriguez's lips curved into a tight smile. "They recognize our ships aren't of any species they've consumed before." "Good. Let's introduce ourselves properly." "Fire the opening salvo." 16 human warships unleashed a synchronized barrage of weapons reverse-engineered from the hierarchy's own technology. Phase-shifted energy beams sliced through crystalline hulls that had never faced weapons designed specifically to counter their molecular structure. The battle was brutally short. The outpost's defenses collapsed within 17 minutes. As debris scattered through space, Rodriguez transmitted to Fleet Command. "First contact complete. Hierarchy outpost neutralized. No human casualties." Admiral Choi's response was immediate. Secure the area. Collect any intelligence. Prepare for counterattack. But no counterattack came. The hierarchy had never needed to defend territory before. They had always been the predators, never the prey. As the Vengeance Armada pressed deeper into hierarchy space, encountering increasingly organized resistance, Choi convened a virtual strategy session with her battle group commanders. "They're adapting," reported Captain Miguel Santos of the Dreadnought _Inexorable_. "Their vessels are regenerating damage more quickly and modifying their shield frequencies to counter our weapons." "Expected," responded Dr. Singh, attending virtually from the science vessel _Prometheus_. "Their hive mind allows them to share adaptations instantly across all units, but there's a weakness in this advantage." She displayed tactical data showing hierarchy response patterns. "They're accustomed to unified action. When we attack unpredictably, their coordination suffers." Admiral Choi's decision was swift. Implement distributed command protocols. Each battle group will operate with tactical autonomy rather than centralized direction. The strategy proved devastatingly effective. In subsequent engagements, human captains made individual decisions based on local conditions rather than adhering to rigid fleet-wide tactics. The hierarchy vessels, extensions of a single consciousness, couldn't adapt to the chaotic battlefield generated by hundreds of individual human commanders making unpredictable choices. Commander Weizhang watched the confusion spread through the crystalline formation, opposing his battle group. "They don't understand us," he told his bridge crew as they executed a maneuver that no tactical algorithm would have suggested. "Their hive mind expects logical patterns." "Humans aren't always logical," his executive officer replied with a grim smile. Across the expanding front, the hierarchy's elegant vessels began to fall in greater numbers. Their formations, previously impenetrable, fractured under the assault of human unpredictability. Each engagement yielded more intelligence about their enemy, while the hierarchy struggled to comprehend a species that operated as individuals within a collective rather than a single consciousness directing separate bodies. From the command deck of the _Righteous Fury _, Admiral Choi monitored the fleet's inexorable advance. The hierarchy was being pushed back toward their core systems, experiencing something they had never known in their millennia of consumption: retreat. And as Dr. Singh had predicted, something new was appearing in their communication patterns, something that suggested the crystalline collective was experiencing an unfamiliar emotion. The blue supergiant star dominated the view screen of the _Righteous Fury _, a massive celestial furnace whose radiation would have instantly incinerated the ship if not for the advanced shielding. But it wasn't the star that held Admiral Choi's attention. It was what orbited it. "The Nexus," Dr. Singh breathed, her holographic projection standing beside Choi on the command deck. "Exactly as our models predicted." The structure defied conventional description, a massive crystalline formation that seemed to grow, rather than having been built, with faceted spires extending for thousands of kilometers. Energy pulses visibly flowed through its translucent surface like blood through veins or thoughts through a neural network. "Life signs?" Choi asked. "Billions," replied her science officer, "but not individual entities as we understand them. The entire structure registers as a single vast consciousness, the home of the crystalline hierarchy, the central nexus where their collective mind resided, and surrounding it, the full might of their defensive fleet. They've consolidated their forces," Commander Santiago reported. "Scanner shows approximately 600,000 vessels. For the first time, they match our numbers." Choi nodded, unsurprised. "This is their brain, their heart. They will defend it with everything they have." She activated the neural command link, connecting her to every captain in the Vengeance Armada. "All vessels, this is Admiral Choi. You know our objective. The Nexus must be penetrated. Implement Battle Plan Omega." The human fleet split into precisely choreographed formations. The main force would engage the hierarchy fleet, while a smaller elite group led by Captain Rodriguez would attempt to breach the Nexus itself. Dr. Singh, Choi said privately, "Are you certain your team can execute the final phase if we reach the central chamber?" Singh's holographic projection nodded, her expression solemn. "The technology has been tested successfully. If Commander Chen's strike team can reach the central matrix, we can implement the consciousness transfer. Then commence the attack," Choi ordered. Space itself seemed to ignite as hundreds of thousands of ships clashed in silence. Human vessels fell by the thousands, their sacrifice marked only by brief flares of light against the void. But the crystalline ships were being destroyed faster than they could regenerate, overwhelmed by the controlled chaos of human tactics. Aboard the stealth insertion craft _Silent Vengeance _ Commander Jackson Chen led his team toward the Nexus while the main battle raged. Their vessel, incorporating captured crystalline technology, registered as part of the hierarchy to the Nexus defenses. "We're approaching primary access point," Chen reported. "Minimal resistance detected. They've committed everything to the space battle." On the Prometheus _ Dr. Singh monitored the neural patterns emanating from the Nexus. "Admiral," she called urgently, "I'm detecting something unprecedented in the crystalline communications. Their collective consciousness is experiencing fragmentation." "Explain," Choi demanded, even as she directed the fleet battle through her neural interface. "Fear, Admiral. Pure, uncontrolled fear spreading through their collective mind. They've consumed thousands of species, absorbed countless neural patterns, but never experienced an existential threat to their central consciousness. They don't know how to process it." As the battle reached its climax, the Nexus itself began to pulse erratically, its crystalline structure flickering with disorganized energy as the collective mind within experienced terror for the first time in its ancient existence. Commander Chen's team breached the outer defense perimeter, fighting through crystalline drones to reach the central chamber where the core consciousness resided. "We've reached the objective," Chen reported, preparing for final phase. The fate of two species, one that had consumed thousands of civilizations across millennia, and one that had crossed the stars to avenge a single colony, balanced on the edge of a knife. The central chamber of the Nexus pulsed with blinding light as Commander Jackson Chen and his strike team secured the perimeter. Before them stood a structure that defied conventional understanding, a crystalline matrix extending in all directions, its facets reflecting and refracting light in hypnotic patterns. Within each facet, ghostly images moved and shifted. "Those are faces," whispered Lieutenant Reeves, her weapon trained on the matrix. Chen recognized some of the faces with a jolt of recognition. "New Eden colonists," he said quietly. "They're still here, in some form." Dr. Singh's voice came through their secure channel from the Prometheus _ The matrix contains the absorbed neural patterns of every species the hierarchy has consumed. Not just data, actual consciousness fragments. Billions of minds stored and integrated into their collective. Chen approached the central pillar, where the patterns flowed with particular intensity. "I can almost hear them," he said, his voice tight with emotion. "They're screaming." "Establish the quantum communication link," Singh instructed. "We need to proceed before the matrix reconfigures its defenses." As his team deployed the specialized equipment, Chen reported to Admiral Choi. "Central chamber secured. Preparing for consciousness transfer." "Understood," Choi replied. "The space battle continues. We'll hold them off as long as necessary." Outside the Nexus, the human fleet fought with desperate intensity, buying time for the strike team. Ships sacrificed themselves to block crystalline vessels, attempting to return to defend their core. Within the chamber, Chen activated the transfer device, technology developed from the New Eden artifacts, designed to isolate and extract the consciousness patterns of the consumed species. But there was a second component to the device, one that Dr. Singh had proposed and Admiral Choi had approved after long deliberation. "Upload commencing," Chen confirmed as the device connected to the matrix. "Phase 1. Extraction of captured consciousness patterns. Phase 2. Implantation of human emotional framework. The matrix pulsed erratically as the process began. The human device wasn't just extracting the stolen minds. It was simultaneously uploading a singular message into the hierarchy consciousness, the complete emotional and experiential record of humanity's response to the attack on New Eden. Every moment of grief, every tear shed for the fallen, the rage that unified a fractious species, the determination that forged 700,000 warships, the capacity for vengeance that drove them across the stars, and crucially, the choice they were making now, to offer understanding rather than extinction. The crystalline hierarchy experienced it all at once, emotions alien to their collective existence crashing through their consciousness like a tsunami. The entire nexus shuddered. Throughout the structure, crystalline surfaces cracked and reformed, cracked again and reformed differently. "What's happening?" Chen demanded as the chamber around them trembled. "Their consciousness is fracturing," Singh explained, monitoring the process remotely. "They've never encountered anything like human emotional complexity. It's overwhelming their collective mind." Outside, the battle paused as every crystalline vessel suddenly went dormant, their controlling intelligence in disarray. For 7 tense minutes, the Nexus continued its violent reconfiguration. Then, abruptly, it stabilized. A new pattern emerged in the central matrix, more complex, more chaotic, yet somehow more harmonious. A voice spoke directly into Chen's mind, combining countless voices into one. "We understand. Now." The crystalline fleet powered down its weapons. Admiral Choi, watching from the _Righteous Fury _, gave the order for the human fleet to hold position, but maintain combat readiness. "We consumed without understanding," the voice continued, now broadcasting to all human ships. "We took your people to add their patterns to our own, as we have done for millennia. We did not comprehend what we were taking. We do now." The ceasefire held as negotiations began. The extracted consciousness patterns of consumed species, including the colonists of New Eden, were transferred to specialized storage devices to be given new synthetic bodies or virtual realms to inhabit. In the months that followed, humanity established itself as a galactic superpower, not merely through military might, but through the revelation that they were willing to mobilize their entire civilization to avenge a single colony, yet capable of offering mercy at the moment of their enemy's greatest vulnerability. New Eden was rebuilt as both memorial and promise, and deep within the reformed crystalline territories, a concept previously unknown to their collective mind took root and flourished: respect.